So today's video is a follow-up of this lens here. This is the GF50mm F3.5 LM lens by Fujifilm, and I will be comparing with the 45mm F2.8 lens by Fujifilm too for the GFX system. I'm Richard and welcome to ZP Productions. As I said, this is a follow-up of the 50mm here, and if you have not seen my review of this 50mm here, do click on the link up there or the comments below. Now, if you have not seen the 45mm review, do click the link in the comments below, or if not, go and see any 45mm review out there, because the 45mm is definitely something that is reviewed to death because it's quite an old lens. Now, the GF50mm is an interesting lens. It is the most affordable medium format lens in the modern age. I must emphasize the modern age because if you are looking at the old lenses, of course there are cheaper lenses than this lens in the old medium format lens, especially those by Pentax. But if you look at modern lens in production, this is definitely one of the cheapest here. And you know, if you get in during discount season, easily 500 USD or 750 Sing dollars something can get. And I can straight away tell you, if you compare to lenses of its price range, this lens image quality wise is superb. Now, today we are talking more on a follow-up of this lens here. So let us move to the first thing about this lens, and there's something I like, is the autofocus speed, especially when you compare to this lens or any of the other GFX lens such as the 63mm. This guy has extremely quick focusing speed, and I notice it a lot because when I was to shoot GFX 100 normally, I will focus, check focus, and take the shot. With the GF50mm, I noticed that the focus always snaps into place extremely quick, and in the initial focus, it is always almost sharp. I can zoom in, and I will always be quite surprised that the lens is already in focus on the iris, and I can take the shot. So this lens, in terms of autofocus and initial acquisition of the focus, very fast and very sharp. And this definitely is a big deal if you are doing streets. If you are shooting anything that is moving slightly, this lens will outperform this 45mm lens here by a mile when it comes to autofocus speed. Very damn sure about it now. Then the next thing I want to talk about is the stability, and that is something that I would say this lens seems to be unstable. When I mean unstable, it means that when I was shooting at lower shutter speed with this lens, somehow I require a lot more shots than this lens here. This is the 45mm, as I said earlier. And if I was to shoot at something like 130, 140, 150, I'm almost damn sure that this guy will take almost 2 times more shot than this guy to get the same amount of sharp shots in the frame itself. Now, you may be saying 130, 140, 150, that's insane for a medium format camera. But the GFX 100 does have image stabilization, and I'm still not abusing it. I'm not talking about 110, 120. And if you have used the Olympus system before, with a 35mm equivalent lens, you can do 110 on the Olympus system. And on the Sony system, 120 is actually also possible for a 35mm lens. So I'm giving quite a bit of leeway for the medium format system. 130 with this 45mm lens here will result me retaking 1 shot almost all the time, which means out of 2 shots, 1 shot will be acceptably good enough sharp for me. Now, with this 50mm, I would say I take about 3 to almost 4 or even 5 shots to get something acceptable. And that means that for every 1 shot here, I only take 2 shots here to get the same amount of sharpness at 130. Now, if I go to 140, this lens here, I would say has a hit rate of 70 to 80% when it comes to sharp shots. Now, this lens here is still about 50%, and it means that every 3 shots I take with 45mm lens, I'll get 2 sharp, while it will still be about every 2 shots I take with the 50mm lens, I only get 1 sharp. And at 150, I would say this lens is almost always sharp at 90% hit rate, while this lens here, I would say it's about 60 to 70% hit rate. Probably means every 5 shots, I need to retake 2 shots, 4 or something along the line, where 5 shots, 2 shots are blur and 3 shots are acceptably sharp. So how does this translate in real world? Is that when you are taking with the model, with this lens here, I have to ask my model to hold the pose a lot longer than this lens. In fact, with this lens here, my model have to hold an unreasonably long time because I have to retake, check, retake, check. It's just not really reliable, very unstable in low shutter speed with the GFX 100 compared to the 45mm here. Now, there is only a difference of 5mm, so I believe at 140, both of these lenses should perform almost the same, but it is not the case. 2 times more shots than this lens to get the same amount of sharp shots. Now, it goes on to the last point when it comes to image quality also. The 45mm here does outperform this lens, but in this image quality test, if you ask me, it's just slightly better. Really, really minor, slightly better. Only 45mm compared to the 50mm on the GFX 100. You can see it, you can tell it, but it's minor and it will not break a deal. So what does it mean is that if you are using the GFX 50, which has half the megapixel compared to the GFX 100, probably between both of these lenses, you probably can't see much difference, which is a big deal because it means that this lens is absolutely fantastic when it comes to image quality. Because if you go on the online and check any review, this is probably one of the sharpest 35mm you can ever get, or 35mm equivalent lens. So it goes down to my final recommendations between both of these lenses here. The GFX 50 is something I would recommend if you are shooting anything that is moving. If you are using a GFX 100, this lens definitely will autofocus a lot quicker, a lot better. Definitely the lens for street shooting. Now, if you are using a GFX 100 and your aim is low light shots, the 45mm is a lot better. Firstly, there is 2/3 stop advantage due to aperture. Secondly, the lens is sharp straight out at 2.8, slightly sharper than this lens at f3.5. And third, it is just a lot more stable. I would say as you definitely can hold 1/3 to half a stop better than this lens when it comes to stabilization. All in all, if you ask me for low light, the 45mm will definitely give you like a 1-stop theoretical advantage over the 50mm. Or I would say it's 1.5 stop theoretical advantage over the 50mm when it comes to low light shooting, and therefore you can set a much lower ISO and get a much better image. Now, if you are using the 50 series, the 50S of the 50R, the advantage between them is not so clear. Firstly, as I said, this lens and this lens, the sharpness is very little in difference. On the 50, probably you can't even tell the difference. And next, when it comes to autofocus, the 50 with its contrast detect, both lenses are about the same. Nothing is going to be faster than the other. And you are probably not going to track anyone with this lens, even though it has an lens on the 50 series camera. Without face detect, tracking is almost impossible. There are people who do streaks with it, but that's another subject of its own. And lastly, because there is no IBs, both lenses are totally unusable at 130, 120 unless you have a tripod. So stability also will not be a problem on a 50 series camera. So how does this all add up? On a 50 series camera, between both of these lenses, the choice is really between the f2.8 or f3.5. The 5mm difference may matter to some, may not matter to some. That's also for you to decide. But I think the aperture difference of 2/3 is probably a bigger deal. And the next thing is, of course, the price. This guy is 2.5 to 3 times the price of this guy. So price is probably your biggest, I would say, as difference between both of these lenses. The most significant difference between both of these lenses. And if you are using the GFX 100, of course, there is a clear choice. Low light, street. Stability, speed. Simple as that for the GFX 100. For the GFX 50, it's between aperture and price. That's about it. And that's all for today's follow-up video of the GF50mm F3.5 LM lens. I hope you enjoy it. And if you want to see more videos regarding GFX or the EOS R, by the way, the EOS R latest announcement will be this Thursday. And it will be probably about on the R5 or the R6 or some of the new lenses. So I'll definitely create a video for it, as I have created a video for every single R5 update. But till then, if you want to see more EOS R content or more GFX content, do follow my channel. If not, do just see whatever I create. And till the next time, bye-bye.